Good morning. It's a Saturday morning. I came in early to beat the tourists because, as I said in my last video, tomorrow is the Bath Half Marathon. So today the city will be inundated with runners and families who are taking the weekend to have a tour of Bath. The gentleman up over my right shoulder is William J. He was the founding minister of this church in the late 1700s. And he was in the pulpit of this church for 63 years. And so we have a portrait of William J. And we still have people come to the church just to look at the archives and information about William J. And we also get requests about William J.'s life from all over the world. Today, I thought we would start at Laura Place, but instead of going west, we'll head east. You'll see the front of the church and the area around the church, but we will also take in Pulteney Bridge, the famous bridge with shops on the side, and we will also take in the Pulteney Weir, and you'll get to see the Avon River. If you hear a little organ music in the background, they are tuning our recently refurbished organ, which just went back into service last week after a period of 9 weeks in which we didn't have our rather majestic pipe organ. So we'll meet again outside of the church at Laura Place, but instead of, as I said, going out of town, we will head into the city center. Start on Laura Place with something that might not seem too majestic. It's a pillar box. And unlike most pillar boxes, this one just happens to be hexagonal, most are round. And is a pillar box, a mailbox from a bygone era, which sits on Laura Place. And believe it or not, I'm not the only person that ever photographs this rather majestic looking pillar box. And as we pan around, this is Argyle Street, and we're going to go to the other side of the street and look at the United Reformed Church, Central United Reformed Church, and then I will give you a bit of a history about the area around Argyle Street. This is the front of Central United Reformed Church. Can't even tell it's a church from its Georgian front. Except perhaps if you look up in the middle window at the top, and we'll see the cross that was especially designed for the stained glass windows of Central United Reformed Church. This is a Georgian front, as I said, and the building extends behind for quite a distance with several halls. The main sanctuary, though, is right behind this frontage of Bath stone built in the Georgian period. Standing on the porch of the church, looking across the street at the Boater Pub. The Boater Pub, until 1923, was actually a brewery, and underneath the Boater Pub and underneath the street, Argyle Street, that you see there, underneath the street was the warehouse for the brewery, which ran underneath Central United Reformed Church, which at the time was known as Argyle Chapel, and the church made a pretty nice living off of the warehouse for the brewery that existed on their property. Here's another view of the Boater Pub, still standing on Argyle Street, but I'm going to pan around now. I always do this poorly. And if you look up, you will see a window painted on the side of the building. There are several of these in Bath, and what these windows actually do is provide balance for the Palladian windows. And this window is painted on the side of a building where a library used to exist, and so they decided to keep the library theme. And you see a man in there reading a book. We're back across the street now. That's another view of the church. And I'm trying to give you a perspective. There's Argyle Street, that truck that was parked in front of the pub. But if we begin to move around, we're going to come to the famous Pulteney Bridge. Pulteney Bridge is famous because of its shops, which are actually on the bridge itself. The bridge is only open to commercial traffic and buses, taxis, and vehicles that unload, and of course bicyclists, I guess we should say. As you see there, again, we're early in the morning, so there's not a lot of tourists out now, and so you can kind of see what the shops look like on the side of the bridge. You can go down those steps, the Riverside Walk, and walk along the River Avon. But most people tend to stay on the shop level unless they're going to a rugby match or want to go down to the rec. There are all sorts of shops on the Pulteney Bridge, but perhaps the most famous is the Hampstead Bazaar, a women's clothing apparel shop. It is particularly made famous because it is where Dame Judi Dench purchases many of the dresses that she wears. It's also fascinating that we also have an Orvis store at the end of the bridge. And when David Moyer, the Wisconsin conference minister, visited us, he was fascinated because they also have one in Madison. Pulteney Bridge. We're now on the other side. This is actually the attractive side. If you go to the north side of the bridge, this is the south side. The north side of the bridge, like much of Lord Georgian architecture, was not meant to be a thing of beauty. So it was left kind of plain with unfinished stone. But this side, the tourist side, or the side that most people see when they visit Bath, is rather lovely. And you can probably hear some water rushing in the background. And that's because the bridge is right next to the Pulteney Weir. The weir is a flood prevention measure. There used to be a lot of floods in Bath. And as you can see, when the water gets high, trees often break down off the banks further upstream and come and get caught up on the weir. And so 2 or 3 times every year they have to remove these trees. The Avon River flows clear out to the Bristol Channel and then of course out into the Atlantic Ocean. Across the river you also see the backs of some of the shops that were on Argyle Street, and you also see the beer garden for the boaters, in which people sit out on a summer evening and can overlook the weir. A little bit further downstream, again you see the weir, and as we begin to pan around to the east bank, you can also see the Bath rugby ground. I think they may be playing today at home, so later on that will be crowded with lots of fans. And then as we pan on around down the River Avon to the North Parade Bridge, we come around and you will just begin to see the Bath Abbey. The Abbey is, of course, used to be called the Lantern of the West. It was going to be the home of the Bishop of Bath and Wells, but they decided, because of the actions of some of the monks at the Abbey, the Bishop decided that he would make his home in Wells instead of Bath. But there you see the Abbey, and later we will take a tour around that building, and also we'll go inside to give you a view of that.